A lot of those were actually written as completely separate novels, and then kind of like they shoehorned in the Inspector universe. So it's, I mean, it gets a little bit muddied, which is why it's hard to really just fully accept it.
And I don't read, so.
Well, I actually started, I didn't know what I was watching. My dad was a huge fan. There was this one episode with like 3 different guys in bowler hats. I was watching, it was the coolest thing ever. Later I found out that it was mashed up
the Hercule Poirot.
Yeah.
And the reason that one has not been shown, and we can't even get it or do anything to it if we could, is because of the rights issue. Because the Agatha Christie estate was, well, that's why there was no 86, 87 season, because that's how much money it cost in court.
Well, how did they get Poirot on the air then?
Well, they just didn't tell anybody that they were doing it.
No.
They were just like, oh, check out a mustache. We'll just not name him. It'll be fine. But that's where my dream came from. That episode, and I loved it so much on the screen that like I probably spent about 2 years just with screen caps and jewelry and trying to make it exact, and it almost destroyed my marriage, and but it's okay, we're better now. He accepts that,
Moving on.
I feel like nobody on this side of the room has any memory.
It was pretty hot.
Yes, well,
Okay.
well, it was, I've learned very recently it was an idea we blatantly stole from Star Trek, which I never watched, but I've heard it was decently famous here in the States. But the idea was also very sweet, where the inspector, as a woman, had a husband who, when he met the new inspector, they still had feelings for each other. And I thought it was a really interesting way to take on same-sex marriage and be a little bit proactive in that community, as well as tell a good piece of science fiction.
That'd be hot.
The thing is, in the room, you can't really think about like how are we going to deal with this issue, or what are we going to say about it. You tell a good story and you do what you can, and you hope that it kind of resonates. The one discussion that we did have, though, was whether we wanted to have Travis in drag, like we ultimately did, or actually recast with a woman just for the visual, aesthetic. And I think we made the right choice. You guys, yes? Yeah.
As the first openly gay inspector, it was something that was important to me to make sure that the fans had that, because I know that we have a lot of LGBT fans, and it's something that they are often unrepresented in television. So, but I do want to talk more about fans, because you guys in the Inspector Spacetime universe, it exists because of you. And I just want to say, being on the inside and seeing the amount of creativity that has been born on the internet, based purely on your imagination, and we steal, quite frankly, from you all the time.
So you are reading the fanfic?
Oh yeah, oh absolutely, absolutely. Some of the best stuff is out there on the internet. But I do talking a little bit about the use of segueing into a little bit of the inspector on American television and being on Community and stuff like that. I'm gonna segue a little out of character a little bit. Because we've got some exciting stuff for you coming up, and I want to get this covered. Being on Community, a lot of people when I've been walking around have asked me what that was like, and it was. The cool thing about it was that everybody familiar with the Inspector Spacetime appearance on Community? We've got the clip. Do you want to play the clip real quick, just for people who aren't?
God, how many things do you love?
It's too complicated to laugh.
Oh yeah.
been on the air since 1962.
Britta, you've done enough, okay? Why don't you go start a Ruiners Club? Oh, wait, probably just ruin it.
Well, then I'd be doing a good job because it's a Ruiners Club.
You ruined my analogy.
Blimey, Inspector. Where have we wound up this time? The question isn't where, Constable, but when. Inspector, look out! Floorboards! Eradicate.
This is the best show I've ever seen in my entire life.
Thank you. In that episode, Abed watches two shows. He watches Cougar Abbey. And when I went in, I auditioned for both those shows within a show. And they originally cast me as the guy in Cougar Abbey because they were going to give the Inspector Spacetime thing to a friend of the producers. And then but I made a point to say when I went into the casting office, I'm much more excited about this one line in Inspector Spacetime than the two scenes for Cougar Abbey, because as a Doctor Who fan, I was very I knew that it was going to be big. I had no idea it was going to be big. And so when they called me up, they called me up like a couple days before the shooting, and they said, do you mind taking over the inspector role instead? And I said, yes, please. And so we went and did that, and we did 3 episodes. We showed up in the because it was such a hit. After the premiere aired, that weekend the internet went crazy for Inspector Spacetime, and they called me up the next Tuesday and said, can you come in on Friday and shoot more Inspector Spacetime for the episode that's going to air the next Thursday? So they were shooting episode 8 at the time, but they wanted for me to come in and try to shoot some stuff for episode 3. And it ended up being episode 4, the Chaos Theory episode. Brilliant, brilliant television. That's Chris McKenna wrote that. And you can hear the audio from the scene, but you can't see. They didn't have enough time to actually put the camera on the TV and show you the episode. But it was really cool. We had a lot of fun. It was actually the best clip because it's a little repartee between the inspector and the constable. And then we came back to the Christmas episode where you see some of the Inspector Spacetime holiday special, which was also a lot of fun to do. So, but it's such an amazing thing to go out on the internet and see fans make something out of a 15-second clip. Fans created, and I was there with them. Because I'm a fan, and so I wanted to be a part of that. And so I was after my first shoot, before it actually aired, Eric and I wrote the Inspector Spacetime web series, which we're going to read the first episode of today. It's good stuff. And so I knew what we had. We had sat down for hours before anybody knew what Inspector Spacetime was, and we're like, okay, what is the TARDIS called? What is the race called? What is the difference between the Doctor and the Inspector? And we'd done all sorts of stuff. But then fans went and created an entire history of this.
If you guys haven't gone to like the TV Tropes page or like, it's amazing. It's incredible.
TV Tropes, Inspector Spacetime Confessions on Tumblr. It's wonderful reading. And there's also a Pro Boards page. If you look up Inspector Spacetime Pro Boards, be a part of that. Help form the canon. You can write episodes. They're handing out assignments for that. And it's just been really, really fantastic. So you guys deserve all the credit for the fact that this even exists right now. So and the cool thing is, the most important thing is that they're listening to you. Television executives, especially the smart ones like Dan Harmon and the people at Community, listened to you. It's because you guys went crazy that first weekend that they said, we got to do more so we can give these people what they want. They have shot the last half of the season of Community. I didn't go in and again for any other Inspector Spacetime stuff. They did call me, but they ended up getting written on the script. So, and they're still kind of unsure whether or not it's coming back for a 4th season. But no, it's not a sure thing. It hasn't been canceled. So what you guys can do is, go on Twitter, and there are, you can Twitter Dan Harmon, you can Twitter NBC Community, you can Twitter the other people involved with the show, and post things on Tumblr, and post things on your blogs, and post things on YouTube. I have Brian Giovanni wrote the original song, which you're going to hear in a little bit if you haven't heard already, the original theme song for Inspector Spacetime. And
I was instructed how to compose it, essentially. It was, well, so much using my own creativity. I'm like, okay, what is it, how does it work? What is it like? How can I blend all this together? And thanks to you guys, I made the greatest song that I didn't know existed already out there before.
Yeah. Well, Ben, you guys had already established that the theme song was more orchestral, because the Doctor Who was more synthetic and electronic. So Inspector Spacetime was very orchestral, much like the kind of Battlestar Galactica theme song.
But the thing that I thought was really cool, and I'm not a music guy at all, but like you just saw in that clip of Community where they have the last note of the Inspector Spacetime intro. Brian worked backwards from that note to make the music lead into it.
No, the reality was already established. Like I said, I didn't create this. I had a reverse point. What was the reverse temporal time thing?
Yeah,
just like that.
Reverse temporal mechanics.
So I had to work backwards and then start at the beginning, and then it's like it was like a maze, but I knew where I was going. We just had to go back.
I shoot it.
Yeah, we have time for a couple questions. Executives are not, by a rule, creative people. They don't pay attention to creativity. They pay attention to dollars. They pay attention to numbers and demographics. So it's the creative people at Community that are very aware of what's going on here. The executives need help. And so the web series that we're going to make, and we're going to make it with your help, we're going to launch a Kickstarter campaign tomorrow. And we're going to make this 6-episode web series, and if it's successful, and we're pretty sure we're legally okay. It's a little bit of a gray area, but very light gray.
Yeah. We'll rip it as soon as it comes online. It may disappear.
But we're pretty sure. But if it's super successful, I feel like what they would do is probably use it for the DVD, or it would give them a reason to bring it back to the show, and because they would see that the fans really love it. Oh, I'll be signing at 2 o'clock, and we'll have plenty of ribbons with us. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, so she's been
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those of you with cameras, those of you with video cameras, please, video and photo and all this stuff, post it, tag it, make sure it gets out there, and then yeah, email anybody that you can find with an email address that has anything to do with Community. Because they have to learn sometime. Something to note too, Sony produces Community, and it's aired on NBC, so both NBC and Sony people have something to do with this show's future.